Hey, what's going on, guys? So the game just ended. We took an L to the Carolina Panthers 14-19. Um, Overall, just kind of immediate reaction thoughts, taking it position by position. I think overall we've seen an encouraging game from Zach Wilson, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think with the way the offensive line came out for this first game, which we'll get to them, but plenty of things that we'll need to go back to the drawing board and try to make corrections for. It seems like Zach Wilson overcame it. It was very easy by the halftime for us to be very curious about how this team would respond, what the rest of the season would look like. We've heard so many good things in preseason, and I kind of warned about the hype that we had. There's plenty of rookies splashed out all over the team. Just aside from that, first year coaches all throughout the staff, and it's just going to be plenty of learning experiences that are going to come often and early. But Zach Wilson definitely provided a very encouraging performance for us. It's not many games, even in games where especially we're struggling, that we see multiple touchdown performances. So it's kind of nice to get that little bit of a break. Moving into the running back position, this kind of doubles down into the O line as well, which again we'll get to, but definitely underwhelming. There wasn't a lot of holes or anything that they could really utilize in order to kind of get any kind of semblance of consistency going. So I think what we need to see is to LaFleur's point during one of his last interviews. He mentioned whoever has the hot hand is going to get fed the ball. So we've seen Coleman, who didn't really get any kind of work in the preseason, actually get the majority of the touches. Um, and then they sprinkled in Michael Carter a bit, and other than that, it wasn't really a whole lot to talk about, right? A lot of it was trying to bring in additional protection, so pass blocking, stuff like that. The wide receivers had a bit of a better day, kind of touching back on what we mentioned for Zach Wilson. So the Corey Davis Zach Wilson connection was alive pretty early, which is really good to see. Just under 100 yards, 5 for 97 and 2 touchdowns, I believe, for the day. Barrios got involved with 5 catches. I think he went just over 50. Mims had the huge splash play for 40 yards, which was nice to see. Kind of wish he would have got incorporated a little bit more, but I think as he's gradually continuing to come back, we'll definitely see his number get called. Elijah Moore, I know everybody had to have been really expecting like a huge game from him, right? We heard all the preseason hype, everything in training camp, all the practices, OTAs, mini camp. Um, I'm not as surprised. Same situation with like Tevin Coleman. Um, they didn't get any work. The one huge call out for all the success we had in the preseason was that we only faced second team defenses and third string backups, people that probably still be working at Walmart by the time the season rolls around. With that said, we had no control over that, so we showcased what we needed to showcase. But Elijah Moore didn't get that work. He didn't really get to run, let's say half speed in preseason even. I think we'll continue to see him get worked into the game plan a lot more. Just with the struggles that we had from an offensive standpoint, it wasn't going to be a great day for anybody that had to work out of the slot. I think problematic. I think the biggest cues, though, again, is Zach Wilson kind of alleviated a lot of concerns I had after watching a bit of the game, that he can elevate over certain struggles that the teams are having. So moving into the tight end position, I think the arrow's kind of pointing down just a bit there. We can kind of really say neutral. Um, there was nothing really to speak of. 3 catches apiece for Croft and I forgot who I seen the other tight end was. Um, but nothing big. I think they both went under 30 yards. It was just kind of nice to see them incorporated in the game plan, getting utilized. We know Croft has the ability to have, some big breakout games here and there. So hopefully that does occur. But moving into the O line, which is the it's really the biggest piece of this whole first game for us. The arrow has to be pointing down, right? And so there's still a lot of hope there. We brought in a lot of talent. We've seen they got to work together, for a fair amount of time during the preseason. So it's just a matter of the consistency continuing. But we've seen various issues come and go. So during the preseason mini camps and everything, it was pass protection. There's definitely still an issue here, but we've seen some really strong running days. And again, we had nothing that we can really speak to. I think we were under 40 yards as a team for the entire night, maybe 50, but we couldn't open up holes to save our lives. So we've seen how they've been able to go up against Carl Lawson, Bryce Huff, Quentin Williams that came back recently, John Franklin Myers. So they didn't get the full disposal of our weapons on defense, but they played against some pretty quality players. Even if we're not, even if we're excluding joint practices and everything else that we tried for the preseason. So it's a little discouraging to kind of see that now. We didn't have anything to lean on. We couldn't say that we were dominant or even average in pass protection, and the same thing applies to the running game. On top of that, we have to see what's the deal with Mekhi Becton. So he has the knee injury, which could potentially be scary for us, although George Fant is kind of like the golden ticket for us. So even if he didn't win the starting position, which ultimately went to Morgan Moses, it was basically a starter in the wait. So as soon as he came in to relieve anybody, it was still quality starting play that was going to happen. So if Mekhi does miss any kind of real time, we don't really have to worry. Depth is definitely going to be a concern, but I have full confidence that George Fant can come in and put in respectable performances week after week. Otherwise, yeah, 6 sacks on the night, no kind of running game we can speak of. It was pretty abysmal. On the defensive side, not even a breakdown like position to position, but just as a whole, the arrow has to be pointing down a bit. Again, everybody should take this with a grain of salt. Plenty of rookies, especially all throughout the entire secondary. We've seen splash play after splash play after splash play. McCaffrey had 20-plus yard plays. Pretty much as anybody on the team that you can really think of for Carolina, they were able to break off some pretty big yards. That came via the run game, came via the pass game. So, there's no particular finger to point at. 100-plus yards in the running game. If you throw in Sam Darnold's, a couple of runs in there. Darnold had plenty of time to throw and kind of go through his progressions and stuff, which we know was a struggle for him. So it was really going to be on the defensive line to try to create that pressure there to make things difficult. But it didn't happen. It was week 1. We're finally playing starters for the first time. We're finally kind of deciding to roll the dice with all of these young players. It's going to be a work in progress. We've seen Carolina, they had that all defensive draft, and then once again mostly defensive this year, but they had players in place. Shaq Thompson, who had a crazy game. There was players in place to kind of make that progression a little bit more seamless. CJ Mosley just came back. He had the task of trying to cover McCaffrey for quite a bit. That's tough on anybody, especially somebody that's just returning. So outside of that, it's definitely arrow pointing down for the Jets as an entire team. But again, I think there's a lot of encouraging things. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on how things have gone, who you're looking forward to. I will say my MVP of the game, aside from Zach Wilson, which is the obvious one. Defensively, John Franklin Myers, he seems to have had the biggest impact. And then I think it's Deshaun Phillips. I've seen that he was in quite a few tackles and assists. So other than that, again, let me know who you guys think stood out for you, kind of what your immediate thoughts on the game are. And looking forward to week 2. We'll see how that pans out. But I'm kind of interested to see the breakdown that the coaches had too. So more on that to come. Peace.